Paul now says he's shifting gears to concentrate on his Campaign for Liberty, a new effort to help elect libertarian-leaning Republicans to public office around the country. Joining me now, author of The Revolution, Congressman Ron Paul. Good to see you, Congressman.
Thank you. Nice to be with you today.
So tell me about this revolution and your concrete efforts to energize these thousands of people who are, big-time Ron Paul supporters.
Well, the primaries have ended and we came up short, but a lot of our supporters didn't want to quit, so we organized a new group. It's called Campaign for Liberty, and it can be found campaignforliberty.com. And we're going to continue to do exactly what we've been doing, energizing people, getting young people interested, studying the issue, understanding the Federal Reserve System, understanding why those oil prices are high, and talking about these issues. So we're very, very active, and we've had a great deal of interest already expressed in our new organization.
Well, look, I think it's great. I spend a lot of time talking to college kids who are looking around going, isn't the government supposed to feed, clothe, house me, and change my diaper for me? So I love the idea of college kids out fighting for liberty. My question for you, and I always have this question for all libertarians, I've asked this before, Congressman, what makes you believe that Americans want more liberty? Don't these Gen Xers and their please take care of me mentality really reflect where, sadly, America is today?
Well, there's a contest going on. Those who want to be taken care of by others and using government force to do it, and those of us who say that we should be responsible and take care of ourselves. A year and a half ago, when I was reluctant to join the presidential race, I was convinced that nobody would listen, nobody cared, we needed another generation, we needed a disaster to wake up people. But I'll tell you what, in the last year or so, I have been very encouraged by the number of young people. They come to my office endlessly talking about self-reliance and responsibility. So I am very encouraged, and I think it's the need. I think it's the obvious evidence that government doesn't work. The foreign policy's in shambles, the spending is too high, and the young people know they're getting the bill. And that's why I think they're waking up.
Congressman Paul, I would love to believe you. I want to live in an America that's a lot more like the one that you want, self-reliance. And I see it, for example, in Iowa, where the floods strike and people rush out and they help their neighbors, they help themselves. But let's face it, a lot of America lives in New Orleans. People sitting around flooded, waiting, please come get me. Can you give me an example of where you see liberty winning in the public debate today here in the United States?
Well, I think we won the argument with New Orleans. The government totally failed. And people are waking up. They can't depend on the government. So no, I think it is difficult, and there's a lot of people who think government can bail them out. But the government's running out of money, resources, and ability, and it's going to end. I complain about us being in 130 countries and 700 bases, but that's going to come to an end, not because I'm going to persuade everybody, but we're going to run out of money. We're going to ruin our dollar, and we'll have to cut back. We'll have to live within our means, but the big decision is whether it's going to be the society you and I would like to have with less government and self-reliance and following the Constitution, or whether we're going to accept this notion that the government's going to save us. Well, obviously the government can't save us because the government is nobody. They can't create jobs and they can't create wealth, and the sooner we wake up, the better.
I want to get to political stories in the presidential race in a second, but one last thing, you mentioned oil prices. In your view, it seems to me it's classic libertarian supply and demand. Am I missing something here on why the price is so high?
Yeah, but there's another addition to that. There's a supply and demand of energy, but that is not our problem. You can get all the oil and gasoline you want at the gas station today, but the reason there's a problem is the price is too high. So they don't talk about the supply and demand of dollars. The supply of dollars is too much, and that's why the gasoline prices are going up. Also, the foreign policy of our intervention in the Middle East has been a fear factor, and there's danger over there, and that has pushed the prices up. They're up over $100 since we've invaded Iraq, so that is a factor. Nobody really wants to talk about that. But the cost of gasoline is up because the value of the dollar is down.
I want to speak about foreign policy for a second, because you and I disagree on foreign policy. Having a Looney Tune like Saddam Hussein running around threatening his neighbors was never good for gas prices. You add China and India's demand and the tight supply to a Looney Tune like Saddam Hussein, got a problem. But I have to ask you this because I think it's a necessary question. So many of your supporters I meet are also part of the 9/11 truth movement. You've appeared in a movie, Endgame, that talks about the Bilderbergers, etc. Why do you think there is such an attraction from that part of the political discourse to your movement?
Well, I'm not sure, and one of the reasons is that, though I don't endorse those concerns, I probably have encouraged it ironically, because I haven't accepted the 9/11 investigation.
You haven't?
No, because I think they hid things from us, and they didn't want to blame anybody. Nobody was discovered to be inept. We spent $40 billion on security, and the information was there. What about the CIA agents that reported 35 or 40 times that these individuals were flying airplanes, but learning how to fly airplanes but not land them, and we didn't do anything, but nobody was punished. So there was a lot of ineptness there on that, and nobody talks about the incentives for people to commit suicide terrorism, and it's very, very clear that suicide terrorists are not motivated because people are rich or because they're free. They're motivated mainly and almost wholeheartedly because they are occupied by foreign nations. And if we don't understand that, we are going to be forever threatened by terrorists.
Once again, I disagree with you, but are you saying there's something about the 9/11 attack that we should know but don't? I thought we know. 19 guys, airplanes slammed into the buildings. What don't we know?
Well, what we don't know is who was inept. We had that information buried in all those records that some of these people were stirring around. We didn't do anything to prevent it. I mean, we had all this money spent to protect us. On that day, on 9/11, Seoul, Korea was better protected than Washington, D.C. and New York City. So there's something wrong. We're looking outward, not inward. We closed down bases in America, and we built them in Saudi Arabia, which was the #1 motivating factor of Osama bin Laden. He says, you have a military base by foreigners on our holy land. So we have to understand that. If not, there's no way we can solve this problem.
Well, and of course, we were there because of the threat of Saddam Hussein, which takes us back to the beginning. But Congressman, I've got to take a quick break. I'd love to continue this conversation when we return. More with Congressman Ron Paul in just a minute. Please Texas Congressman, former presidential candidate, and Campaign for Liberty founder Ron Paul. And Congressman Paul, I am excited that you're getting young people who are excited about libertarian ideas pumped up. Will they be playing a role in the presidential election? Will you be backing the libertarian candidate Bob Barr?
I have not made that decision. As of now, no. I haven't endorsed anybody for the presidency. We're mainly working on a grand celebration of liberty, a rally in Minneapolis on September 2nd. But maybe after that I might think about it. But there's a friend running in for the Constitutional Party, on the Constitutional Party ticket, as well as Bob Barr on the Libertarian Party.
Can you tell me more about, I'm curious about this mini convention you're going to have while the Republicans are in Minneapolis. Is that the plan? Are you there to protest? Are you there to amplify? What's the goal?
Well, it's a philosophic protest, but it's not even nearby. It's like 8 miles away. It is to help celebrate what was accomplished in this last year and a half. These hundreds of thousands of people that have worked in the campaign, as well as over 1 million votes and over millions more that have been interested, is to come there and to celebrate what we have done and make plans for the future. But it's not there to disrupt or be confrontational or demonstrate or anything like that. It's to be very positive and to emphasize why more freedom is necessary, not more government.
And of course, you got to love libertarian protesters. They respect private property. They don't burn anything, turn everything over. But I do want to ask about the concern that I've heard from some people who really don't want to see Democrats take control of the White House. They're very concerned about it. And they're concerned, Congressman Paul, that your movement might be the Ralph Nader movement of 2008, might make just enough difference in just the right states to give the election to Senator Obama.
Well, if it's motivating some Republicans to put pressure on our nominee to be more conservative, that's good. But what they don't understand is that the #1 group of people who come to our campaign are young people who may be Obama supporters. So the Republican Party really should be encouraging me, because I can compete and draw people away from Obama, because he doesn't offer anything for change. His foreign policy isn't any different. His foreign policy is the same as McCain's foreign policy. So I would say that I would get more votes drawn away from Obama than from McCain.
And you know, I've heard you say that, and I've seen some evidence of it, but I don't get it. How can you be a libertarian supporter of nationalized health care and seizing control of the oil industry? I just don't understand how that works.
I don't support that.
No, not you, but these people, these college kids who are like, well, maybe Ron Paul, maybe Obama. I don't understand that.
Yeah, but he talks in generalities, and he talks about nice things, and he has nice rhetoric, and the young people say, hey, that sounds pretty good. But when they study the issues, they come our way.
One last question for you, Congressman Paul, and I really appreciate your time. If you're talking to a young person, my 15-year-old son, for example, has suddenly got energized about politics, in fact, in large part to Glenn Beck, and young people are looking for an idea that they can hold in advance, where they have a legitimate shot, an idea that America will resonate with Americans. What idea that you talk about in your book, The Revolution, would you point them to first?
Well, The first issue that it brings people to our campaign has been the foreign policy of non-intervention, minding our own business, a strong national defense. We got the most money from the active military duty people than anybody else. That's number one. And then the other subject that brings young people is following the Constitution, particularly with monetary policy. Don't print money when you need it. That's why prices go up. And all of a sudden they say a light bulb goes on and they say, yes, the Constitution, the rule of law, sound money, and a sensible foreign policy.
Thank you so much, Congressman Ron Paul. We appreciate it.
Thank you.